So about 18 years ago, to the day of filming, is the time that my dad had his fateful accident where he passed away. And as sad as that was, at the time, he had actually pulled the Z1 out of storage and started working on it to get it running again. And it was the first time I had actually seen it out of the garage at the family shop. And he was actually working on it. And that's kind of when I started to get more of an interest in the bike. I remember working on a bicycle next to him, working on the Z1. He's pulling the heads off, the cylinders off, going to the local Kawasaki dealership, talking to the owner there, going through boxes, finding the right new old stock pistons. And so to be able to carry on the project where he left off and even take it to the next level, where we're now stripping the bike down completely, cleaning everything off, and rebuilding it to almost new is it's something very special. And to be able to share that experience with my family really means a lot. And I hope that we're able to do the bike justice, honor my dad, and get this thing running again.
Let me tell you about John, my big brother John. I'll tell you, 1973 was the year John became John that we all know and love. But it all started a long time before that. It started off, I mean, we all grew up on the farm. We were kids, we had little dirt bikes. We started off our first dirt bike. Our dad was good to us. We had a little Indian, it was a little yellow one. It was so much fun, it was a classic, we should have kept it. But then one day, my dad moved us up to this red and white 50cc dirt bike. I can't even remember if it was Honda or Yamaha. It wasn't Kawasaki, so it really doesn't matter. But anyways, it was this little dirt bike. And we rode around the farm, and all of us rode it through the fields. That was great. But then one day, John got it in his head that bike could be more. And that all kind of coincided, 1972 or so. John watched the movie Easy Rider, and that changed his life. It was hilarious. He went out and bought himself a big suede jacket with fringes like a foot long. He had the jacket, he went and bought the glasses, he bought the whole look, but all he had to ride was that little 50cc dirt bike. So he got his bike license, he plated the bike, and he rode that bike to grade 13, to a school full of kids he didn't know, and that was life-changing. He didn't care. He was going to ride that bike and he was going to be a bike rider. But of course, you can imagine the kind of comments he got. A newbie in the school, grade 13, with his nerdy glasses, and he was kind of bright and intelligent, riding this little 50cc bike. But that all changed 1973 in June. I will never forget the day.
Well, I was just trying to think back on when he got it. He had saved his money, and I think he hitchhiked to Pereira's, which is where he bought it, and rode it home, right? We hitchhiked with a helmet. I think that's how he did it.
Standing in the driveway, beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden this motorcycle rolls in the driveway, and it says Z1 73-900, and John is driving it. And he hops off the bike with an ear-to-ear smile, and it was like he was the happiest you could ever imagine. And then like seconds later, my dad comes stomping out of the house, out of the back door, and he goes, "What's that?" And he just lost it. And John goes, "It's my new bike. I did tons of research. I've been reading about Kawasaki. This Z1 is the most amazing bike. It's going to be a game changer." And my dad goes, "How much did you pay for that?" And I remember, I think he said something like $1,000. And my dad lost it. "Take it right back. It's going back to the store." And John's like, "Nope, nope. I'm keeping it. And it was this big fight, and my dad just kind of marched back in the house. That was the end of it. But that was the day John rolled in with the Z1 73-900. And he loved that bike. And I think because my dad wanted him to return it, there was no way in the world. This was his bike. He took a stand and he loved it.
What I always thought was odd was there were two bikes he was thinking of buying. One was the Kawasaki, and second choice was, and you probably never even heard of this, 750 Yamaha. They had a 750 Yamaha twin cylinder, which was an absolutely horrible bike. It went nowhere. And the reason he didn't buy it, they had this funny little squashed sort of headlight, and that's the reason he picked the Z1. That's what he told me, which is like, it's like difference between A and Z, right? But so the bike, yeah, that was the 750 Yamaha he didn't buy. And of course, the 900 became, still is, sort of legendary, right?
And so then things are kind of quiet for a few weeks. And then John announces, I'm taking this bike on a road trip. And so not only did he keep the bike, then he tells Mom and Dad that he's going on a road trip. And he did. He went off on this most amazing road trip. He took off that summer. He was gone for like almost 2 months. Back then, before cell phones, before internet, before Wi-Fi, he just left and he was gone. And it was the black void of time and contact, and we'd hear from him every couple of weeks. He was all over the States, and he loved that bike.
That was sort of a big trip. I mean, we were 19 or 20 probably at the time. And he takes, you know, he's a 19-year-old kid. He buys the bike in a sense. It probably was the best, it was the newest, greatest thing. He put all his money into it, I think. And he now was going to ride it out west and going across the States and stuff that fall. And he does. I mean, which when you're 19 or 20, that's quite a thing undertaking, right? I think he grew up a lot. And if you read his diary, he's got the chronicles of buying a tire or a chain or whatever he needed and doing the routine maintenance.
And he literally was afraid a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He was. Like when you read his journal, he was afraid.
Yeah.
But it was okay. He was going to do it. He was so determined. He loved that bike. He was so determined. And it was like, I don't care if I'm afraid. I'm going to do this. And then when you read about him phoning home and like, I cried after, or I was freezing and I woke up with snow on me. It's like, oh my gosh, he was incredible. He was a one of a kind.
One time when we were coming home, he went to pick me up from a track meet at high school, coming back from Niagara District. He thought it'd be a good idea to come get me, so I got on the back with my shorts and t-shirt and my helmet, and we went for a nice little ride down Creek Road. And as you're coming down through Creek Road through the corners, surprisingly enough, foot pegs started scraping. I got a little bit nervous because I wasn't that old at the time and wasn't aware of all these situations happening. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, I hear the exhaust pipes dragging and the bike's going lower and lower, and I hear more scraping. And I got a little nervous and I sort of jumped up on the seat a little bit, and that was enough to upset the bike. And John and I, we went off into the ditch and ended up into a culvert on the side of the road and bent the whole front end up and bent the frame.
was like, don't tell Mom, don't tell Mom, you know, because I think Jim would have been, well, if John was 18, 19, Jim would have been 9, 10, you know, 8, 9, something like in that range. And he had him on the back and had an accident. It's like he comes home, don't tell Mom and Dad, don't tell Mom and Dad. It was like everything he did.
That's the frame up there that he actually did hit the culvert with and bent the frame and pushed it all back. So that one wasn't quite straightenable, but he did manage to straighten out several other ones with my dad, and he did salvage a couple frames, but that one there was a little bit beyond repair.
It was 6 nights a week we were up at Hojo's with our motorcycles, and it was always just out riding, doing something. But that was our life back then. It was, you know, we'd get together, and if John wasn't with us, we'd come down to the shop. We'd be sitting on the stools because John was always tinkering on something or puttering with this and doing that. And most of the time it was his motorcycle.
And then it went through a series of, changes. At some point in time, the Kirker header replaced the four pipes, right? And he put it away, like he put the 4 pipes away in grease or something, which obviously the guy had more brains than the rest of us schmucks. We would have hung him up in the attic or something, right? But he always kept those. I presume they're still around. He bought the Kirker header, and they advertised, they did, 25% power increase, which was hypothetical. And then he was always disappointed that he couldn't always feel that 25%. I mean, you're kind of going, well, what do you think, bud? It's like, but no, that was, it was advertising.
John also had a couple little secrets. He'd always be working on the bike late at night till all hours. Nobody knew what was going on, and he was kind of the mad scientist too. He was always investigating how to make things a little faster.
I don't know how it happened. I guess somebody challenged John to a race, and John figured, you know, that the competition was pretty stiff, and he didn't know whether or not the 900 could do it. He could use a little more horsepower. And he knew of this other Z1 for sale.
He had 2 900s, which Mom and Dad didn't know about. He had the other bike hidden away, and he bought the turbocharger for it and actually made two bikes virtually identical, but one was fully turboed and dropped and lowered, and that one came out on a whim one day, and it was a little bit of a surprise for Mom and Dad.
John ended up winning. It was like, okay, good, that's over with. Now I don't have to agonize over how fast I can go or what's going to happen. Because at heart, John was not really a racer, or he wasn't a drag racer. He was in it kind of for the longer haul.
There was always something you could do to it. You put an oil cooler on it, this, that, and the other thing, change the shocks. Ad infinitum, I sort of forget some of that stuff. But it was always a toy, he always liked it, and it was always clean. Yeah, no, it was cool. Like it was growing up, right? So it was growing up. And it's kind of neat to have the bike, I mean, that's the big 900, whatever we called it, as a part of our growing up.